Xi Jinping is a Chinese politician. He is currently the General Secretary of the Communist Party of China, CPC, President of the People's Republic of China, and Chairman of the Central Military Commission. Xi has been the paramount leader and the highest-ranking official in China since 2012, and in 2016, he was officially designated by the CPC as the core leader. Experts consider him to be one of the most powerful leaders in the history of the Communist Party of China since its founding in 1949, second only to the late Chairman Mao Zedong. His influence has continued to strengthen over more than a decade of leadership, during which he has led China to become a global superpower in multiple dimensions: economically wealthy, militarily strong, and culturally rich. Let's explore Xi Jinping's background and his journey to becoming one of the most powerful figures in the world. Without further delay, let's get started. Xi Jinping's biography: a red successor. Xi Jinping was born on June 15, 1953, in Beijing, into a revolutionary family. His father, Xi Jinping, was a member of the Communist Party of China and one of the founding generation of its leadership who had once fought alongside Mao Zedong. His mother, Xi Xian, Xi Jinping's second wife, was also a core party member in Beijing. As the son of two veteran party members, Xi Jinping enjoyed a relatively privileged childhood compared to many of his peers. This was a privilege reserved for the so-called red successors, the children of high-ranking party officials. He also had an elder brother, the son of his father's first wife. Because of this, Xi was not heavily pressured in his early years to inherit his father's entire political legacy. As a child, he studied in Beijing, though he rarely returned home except during major holidays. While in school, he developed a close friendship with Liu He, who would later become vice president of China and a trusted advisor to Xi during his time as the country's top leader. From a very young age, Xi Jinping witnessed his father's rapid rise within the party leadership. In September 1953, Xi Jinping officially assumed the post of Secretary General of the Central People's Government Council and Secretary General of the State Council. In September 1956, Xi Jinping was elected as a member of the CPC Central Committee at the party's 8th National Congress. By May 1959, he had been appointed Vice Premier and Secretary General of the State Council, becoming a senior leader of the party, responsible for helping govern the country and directly managing the State Council. In this role, he supported Premier Zhou Enlai for a decade, contributing to the drafting of essential national principles, policies, and regulations, as well as playing a part in China's diplomacy and other vital state affairs. Two downfalls: the fall from grace. After a seemingly peaceful childhood, one might have expected Xi Jinping to enjoy a smooth path of development, following the standard trajectory of a red successor. But this was when the real turbulence began. At the age of 10, political struggles within the party led to his father being dismissed from his post at the central level and reassigned to Hunan province. Although his father had to live apart from the family, Xi, who had grown accustomed to independence from a young age, seemed little affected. His schooling continued smoothly for more than 6 years, during which he actively participated in sports, especially football. In May 1966, the Cultural Revolution erupted, disrupting Xi's secondary education when classmates forced him to stop studying in order to take part in struggle sessions against party leaders. The political whirlwind turned many veteran revolutionaries into targets of the blind and violent Red Guards. Xi Jinping, his father, was among them. The Xi family was attacked by Red Guards. One of Xi Jinping's half-sisters was persecuted to the point of committing suicide. His mother, Xi Xian, was forced to publicly denounce her own husband. For the first time in his life, Xi Jinping witnessed his father being humiliated, paraded before crowds as an enemy of the revolution. From then on, his life veered onto a completely different path. In 1968, after a lengthy and complicated legal process, Xi Jinping was sent to a labor camp for re-education. In reality, his situation was considered fortunate compared to many others who were executed by the Red Guards. Scholars believe that Xi Xian's intervention, along with support from local educational institutions, gave her a voice in the proceedings and ultimately saved her husband's life. From the moment Xi Jinping fell from power, Xi Jinping was no longer seen as a red successor, but instead labeled a black gang offspring, a derogatory term for children of so-called counter-revolutionaries. Stripped of his father's protection, he immediately became a target of hostility. His name was placed on a blacklist by the Red Guards, and he was socially ostracized. He was then sent to the party school of the Central Committee, placed in a re-education class specifically for black gang offspring. There, he endured strict surveillance and countless long interrogations. That period was extremely harsh for Xi. By the time he was released, his health was severely weakened, and it took months for him to recover. In December 1968, as the Cultural Revolution spiraled out of control, Chairman Mao Zedong launched a new campaign called Up to the Mountains, Down to the Countryside. Millions of educated youth and Red Guards were relocated from cities to remote rural areas across China to help build new villages. Having already been re-educated, Xi Jinping's name appeared on the list of those sent to the front lines of this movement. In a 2004 interview, he recalled that only when the train from Beijing to Shaanxi began to move did he finally breathe a sigh of relief, realizing he still had a chance to survive. In January 1969, Xi Jinping was assigned to a rural base in Liangjiahe village, Ani Commune, Yanchuan County, Shaanxi Province. There, he served as an aide to the local party secretary. But living conditions were extremely harsh. He stayed in a cave dwelling with shabby furnishings, slept on an earthen bed without heating, and used bedding infested with lice. Supplies were meager, clothing was coarse, water had to be hauled by donkey, and food was always scarce. Moreover, as the son of a disgraced black gang family, he received little support from villagers. Nevertheless, according to his team leader, Shi Yuheng, Xi never complained. After a few months of unbearable hardship, Xi decided to flee back to Beijing. He was immediately arrested for desertion and once again sent to a re-education class for black gang offspring. Rising above hardship. After half a year of re-education, Xi Jinping was released. Following the advice of his uncle, Wei Kitchen, he voluntarily applied to return to Liangjiahe to continue the unfinished work there. This time, Xi was determined to fully carry out the duties assigned to him by his superiors. During his time laboring in the village, he performed his tasks diligently and gradually earned recognition from colleagues. He also actively worked alongside the peasants in heavy labor, cutting grass, herding goats, shoveling soil, digging ditches, only resting when seriously ill. Thanks to his perseverance, he slowly gained the respect and affection of the local villagers. In 1971, after being rejected 7 times, Xi finally succeeded in joining the Communist Youth League, an organization for young people aged 14 to 28. With this membership, he was granted permission by Premier Zhou Enlai to visit his father in 1972. Around 1973, Xi began considering joining the Communist Party. In 1974, he formally applied, but due to his father's political background, his applications were repeatedly denied. Refusing to give up, he submitted 10 applications in total before finally being accepted. Impressed by his determination, Liang Yumin, a party cadre in Liangjiahe, personally recommended Xi for membership. Xi was later elected party branch secretary of Liangjiahe. During his tenure, he led villagers in reorganizing the community, resolving long-standing clan disputes, constructing dams, introducing modern agricultural techniques, and building the first biogas digester in Shaanxi Province. These achievements brought him considerable local prestige. From that point on, Xi Jinping's political path, once thought to be closed after his father's downfall, was reopened. Returning to education. After 7 years in the Up to the Mountains, Down to the Countryside campaign by 1975, Xi decided to resume his interrupted education. Since 1973, under a policy allowing direct admission of workers, peasants, and soldiers into universities, he had been applying to Tsinghua University. Aware that his family background remained a major obstacle, he nonetheless resolved, "It's better to apply and be rejected than to live in regret for never daring to think or act." Indeed, his fears soon materialized. Admissions officers at Yan'an, reluctant to make the decision themselves, referred his case to the university headquarters in Beijing. At the time, the central government was mired in political infighting, and the 2 most powerful figures at Tsinghua, Qi Kun and Xie Jingyi, were both entangled and absent, unable to review Xi's application. Ironically, this chaos created a stroke of fortune. Had it not been for the decisiveness of Liu Bing, Qinghua's deputy party secretary, who stepped in to review Xi's file in their absence, Xi might never have been admitted. Liu approved all 3 of Xi's chosen majors, officially allowing him to enter one of China's most prestigious universities. Around this time, the Luoyang refractory materials plant, where Xi Zhongxuan was undergoing labor reform, issued a certificate stating, "The contradictions involving Comrade Xi Zhongxuan are contradictions among the people and do not affect the study and employment of his children." This document further ensured Xi's enrollment could not easily be overturned. On October 7, 1975, Xi Jinping left Liangjiahe for Beijing to begin his studies. Unlike the skeptical, disdainful glances he had faced upon first arriving in the village, this time the entire community gathered to bid him farewell. Their heartfelt send-off moved Xi to tears. Even today, whenever he visits Liangjiahe, he never forgets to bring gifts for each household in gratitude for their simple, genuine affection. Xi Jinping's years at Tsinghua University. From 1975 to 1979, Xi Jinping studied chemical engineering at Tsinghua University. In addition to their major courses, students were required to spend about 15% of their time studying Marxism, Leninism, and Mao Zedong thought, and another 5% engaged in agricultural labor or military training with the People's Liberation Army. For many students, these were harsh requirements, but for Xi, already accustomed to hardship, they seemed relatively normal. During this period, he met Qin Shi, another worker-peasant-soldier student of the same age, in the same department, and with a shared passion for sports. The two quickly developed a deep camaraderie. When Xi later served as secretary of the Tsinghua University Student Party branch, Chen Shi was one of his most capable aides. However, after graduation, the two rarely worked together directly again until Xi rose to become General Secretary of the Communist Party of China. In April 1979, Xi Jinping graduated from Tsinghua University. Around the same time, his father, Xi Zhongxuan, was released from detention and reinstated as first secretary of the Guangdong Provincial Party Committee, a crucial step in his political rehabilitation. Immediately after graduation, Xi Jinping was appointed to the General Office of the State Council and the General Office of the Central Military Commission, serving as one of 3 secretaries to Geng Biao, a senior figure in China's Ministry of Defense and an old friend of Xi's father. That same year, Xi married Ke Lingling, also known as Ke Xiaoming, the daughter of Ku Hua, who was then China's ambassador to the United Kingdom. Working under Geng Biao allowed Xi to accumulate some basic military knowledge. However, after several years without significant career advancement, and recognizing that his true strength lay in his political credibility in rural areas, Xi requested a transfer in 1982. Around the same time, due to irreconcilable differences, his marriage to Ke Lingling came to an end, and they formally divorced when he took up his new posting. The start of Xi Jinping's political career in Hebei. With the help of his father, Xi Zhongxuan, Xi Jinping was assigned to work in Jingding County under the jurisdiction of Shijiazhuang, Hebei Province, a location relatively close to Beijing and convenient for travel. Some reports suggest that Xi initially aimed for the position of county party secretary, but Hebei's provincial party secretary at the time, Gao Yang, strongly opposed it. Known for his integrity, Gao refused to accept anyone lacking experience who sought to climb into leadership positions through connections. As a result, Xi had to settle for a more modest starting point. On March 25, 1982, Xi officially took office as Deputy Party Secretary of Jingding County. After assuming the role, he frequently went on inspections throughout the county, often wearing only the simple green military-style uniform issued by the state. This plain and humble style left local officials both surprised and impressed. Jingding sat along a key north-south transportation artery, but its road system was in poor condition. Xi made a bold decision, mobilizing 43,000 people to participate in road maintenance and improvement projects. The initiative significantly upgraded the county's transportation network. Once infamous for being dirty and backward, Jingding now had serviceable infrastructure capable of supporting both local needs and national traffic routes. This success enhanced Xi's reputation as a young leader who dared to think and act decisively. In 1983, when China's central government launched a nationwide crackdown on crime, She enforced it firmly in Jingding, overseeing public trials and sentencing rallies. At the same time, she faced criticism for his strict implementation of the family planning policy. According to Chinese government reports, in 1983 alone, more than 31,000 women in Jingding underwent sterilization, and another 30,000 had intrauterine devices implanted. To be fair, this was a national policy, and she was merely carrying out his duty. However, the episode illustrated a principle tacitly accepted by many successful Chinese leaders, that in order to create space for economic and political reform, social issues had to be resolved thoroughly, even with harsh measures. By the end of 1983, at just 30 years old, she became Jingding's youngest county party secretary. According to the China Times, it was during this period that Li Jianshu, then party secretary of neighboring Wuji County, befriended Xi, laying the groundwork for their later alliance. During his tenure in Jingding, Xi pursued sweeping reforms in agricultural production, aiming for greater efficiency. Jingding was a major grain producer, and farmers were required to contribute much of their harvest to the state granaries. Leveraging his contacts in Beijing and aligning with local pro-Mao cadres, Xi reduced the quota to 20 million jin, about 3/4 of the original level, allowing farmers to repurpose land for more profitable ventures such as fish farming, poultry, and livestock. Throughout the reforms, Xi did not simply issue directives from behind a desk. He personally visited villages and oversaw progress. Colleagues at the time described him as approachable, modest, and warm in demeanor. Beyond agriculture, Xi also made notable contributions to local tourism. When China's Central Television planned to film Dream of the Red Chamber, Xi proposed that Jingding allocate 2.67 hectares of land for a film studio. Rather than temporary sets, he suggested permanent structures that could serve both filming and tourism purposes. Initially, many leaders in Beijing and Hebei deemed the plan too risky and expensive. But Xi's reputation and persuasive skills secured investments. The result was Ronggua Mansion, which later became a renowned tourist attraction and a major revenue source for Jingding. Following this success, Xi initiated another project, the Changshan Park, honoring Zhao Yun, the famed general of the Shuhan Kingdom, who was born in Jingding. This project also proved successful, generating an estimated 10 million yuan annually in tourism revenue for the county. From October 28 to November 9, 1985, as head of the Hebei Provincial Grain Processing Delegation and chairman of the Shijiazhuang Grain Association, she traveled to Muscatine, Iowa, USA, on a goodwill exchange program. He lived with an American family for nearly 2 weeks, an experience said to have left a deep and lasting impression on his view of the United States. Xi Jinping's career in Fujian. While Xi Jinping was still working in Hebei, the provincial party organization department had planned to promote him. His father, Xi Zhongshuan, even reached out to Hebei Party Secretary Gao Yang to ask for support. However, the move backfired. Gao, known for his integrity and dislike of nepotism, took offense. At a provincial standing committee meeting, Gao Yang publicly accused Xi Zhongshuan of attempting to bribe him. This incident became a stain in Xi Jinping's political record in Jingding, making further advancement there difficult. To resolve the situation, Hu Qiaomu, head of the organization department and a fellow native of Xi Zhongshuan's home province, proposed an alternative, arranging for Xiang Nan, then party secretary of Fujian, to transfer Xi Jinping there. On June 15, 1985, his 32nd birthday, Xi officially assumed office as vice mayor of Xiamen, Fujian province. This marked a significant turning point and the beginning of a new phase in his political career. Xiamen, located just across the strait from Taiwan, was a politically sensitive city where tensions could flare at any moment. It was hardly an easy posting for a young, relatively inexperienced cadre like Xi. The strategies he had successfully applied in rural Jingding proved far less effective in a prosperous coastal city like Xiamen. At the time, Xi emphasized social welfare and environmental protection over economic growth, a stance that did not sit well with many local leaders. During his 3 years in Xiamen, he achieved only modest accomplishments, insufficient to distinguish himself among political rivals. Although his career made limited progress, his personal life flourished. On September 1, 1987, in Xiamen, Xi married Peng Liyuan, a famous folk singer. The marriage had been arranged through mutual friends. Peng later recalled that when they first met in late 1986, she was hesitant due to Xi's very different background. But after just one meeting, the two quickly found common ground and soon married. Yet, Xi's next election did not go well. He failed to secure the required 50% of the vote in the Shaman People's Congress election, and as a result, he was transferred to another locality in Fujian. On June 26, 1988, she was appointed party secretary of Ningda County, also serving as first secretary of the Ningda Military Subdistrict Party Committee. Though considered one of Fujian's least developed areas, Ningda was still more prosperous than Jingding. Recognizing the need for a different approach in the wealthier coastal regions, she introduced several new strategies. At the time, corruption was rampant in Ningda. Many officials openly seized land illegally and colluded with private financiers for personal gain, fueling public resentment. As soon as he took office, she launched a sweeping anti-corruption campaign, which resulted in more than 400 officials at various levels being disciplined. This Iron Hand campaign significantly boosted his political reputation. When the Tiananmen Square protests broke out in Beijing on June 4, 1989, the spirit of dissent also spread to Fujian. Students from Wenzhou University attempted to organize a march in Ningda. She ordered the police and army to set up barricades, confiscate and destroy protest materials, and persuade students to disperse, while also preparing for coercive measures if necessary. Fortunately, no violent clashes occurred, and Xi's authority in Ningda was strengthened. Party Secretary of Fuzhou. Thanks to his achievements in Ningda and his growing local connections, on June 21, 1990, Xi Jinping was promoted to Party Secretary of Fuzhou, concurrently serving as Executive Director of the Fuzhou People's Congress and President of Minjiang Vocational University. During his first term in Fuzhou, he made significant contributions. Oversaw the construction of Chang'an International Airport, initiated the Fuzhou Xiamen Expressway, promoted the development of Maui New Port Zone, attracted investment for more than 600 foreign enterprises, over half of which came from Taiwan. Most notably, she launched the Fuzhou 3820 project, a strategic plan to transform Fuzhou into an international city serving as a commercial bridge between Guangzhou and Shanghai, with the ambition of creating a southern economic golden triangle. The project continues to this day. During this period, Xi's first and only child, Ximingzi, was born on June 25, 1992, at Fuzhou Maternity and Child Health Hospital. Some sources suggest that her name, meaning bringing light and grace to the world, was chosen by her grandfather, Xi Zhongshuan, as a moral guide for his granddaughter to live upright and serve society. Notably, she did not emphasize the need to have a son to carry on the family line. To this day, his family has only one daughter. The first 3 years of his tenure in Fuzhou closed with remarkable success. The city's GDP grew by over 20% annually, and cross-strait trade with Taiwan expanded significantly. Unlike previous leaders who were cautious toward Taiwan, she recognized the enormous economic potential of engagement, demonstrating a pragmatic, modern outlook focused on long-term economic value. Climbing higher in Fujian. In 1993, Xi Jinping continued as Party Secretary of Fuzhou while becoming a standing committee member of the Fujian Provincial Party Committee, Executive Director of the Fuzhou People's Congress, and First Secretary of the Fuzhou Military Subdistrict Party Committee. By this time, his political base in Fuzhou was firmly established, and it has remained influential to this day. On August 9, 1999, she was appointed Vice Governor and Acting Governor of Fujian Province. On January 27, 2000, he was formally confirmed as Governor of Fujian. During this time, he helped the central government handle the Yuanhua smuggling scandal in Xiamen under the direct supervision of Premier Zhu Rongji. Xi's diligence in the case was widely praised across party factions. In 2002, Xi Jinping left Fujian to take on new responsibilities in Zhejiang, ending 17 years of service in the province. Before departing, he left behind a legacy of attracting foreign investment, expanding government support for model entrepreneurs, and, most importantly, building a strong political support network in Fujian. Interestingly, despite his long tenure, Xi never became fluent in the local dialect. Nonetheless, he forged close friendships with many local leaders. evidence of his political adaptability and finesse, signaling the rise of a new star on China's political stage. Career in Zhejiang. On October 12, 2002, Xi Jinping was appointed vice governor and acting governor of Zhejiang province. Around the same time, with his dissertation on rural markets, he earned a doctorate in law, enhancing his academic prestige. While in Zhejiang, Xi quickly embraced a trend launched by Jiang Zemin, promoting the establishment of party branches within private enterprises. In this spirit, he appointed entrepreneurs to informal positions and even allowed some to become delegates to the local People's Congress, a role highly coveted by business leaders. He also cautiously supported small-scale political reforms in Zhejiang, where grassroots democratic experiments were emerging. When he was briefed about a new model that allowed citizen groups to supervise local officials, Xi immediately issued directives to preserve and expand the pilot program. Later, the Central Party School praised this system and permitted its expansion across the province, while adding oversight mechanisms to prevent deviation from party principles. Beyond politics, Xi also strengthened economic ties between Zhejiang and poorer inland provinces, representing Zhejiang's wealthy entrepreneurs and outreach to neighboring western regions. This won him support from both the business community and local officials. At the 16th National Congress of the Communist Party of China, November 2002, Xi was elected a Central Committee member for the first time. Around this time, Zhang Dejiang, Zhejiang's party secretary, was promoted to the Politburo and reassigned to Guangdong, leaving the top provincial post to Xi Jinping. On January 22, 2003, Xi was appointed chairman of the Standing Committee of the Zhejiang People's Congress. During his tenure, he continued his habit of on-site inspections and proposed the 88 strategy, along with 10 billion projects, focusing on improving people's livelihoods, adjusting industrial structures, attracting foreign investment, encouraging private capital flows. The results were striking. Zhejiang's average growth rate hit 14% annually. By 2006, per capita urban GDP exceeded 18,000 renminbi, while rural incomes surpassed 7,000 renminbi, ranking first nationwide. Xi Jinping's tenure in Zhejiang was marked by discipline, frankness, reform-driven policies, and a willingness to test bold strategies. These qualities built his reputation in national media and drew the attention of China's top leadership.
Career in Shanghai.
In September 2006, Chen Liangyu, then party secretary of Shanghai, was dismissed over the Social Security Fund corruption scandal. Xi Jinping, well known for his past anti-corruption efforts, was chosen to replace him. On March 24, 2007, Xi was appointed party secretary of Shanghai. On June 20, 2007, he was elected delegate to the 12th Shanghai People's Congress, and on January 29, 2008, he became a delegate to the 11th National People's Congress. Shanghai was traditionally the power base of Jiang Zemin and Zheng Qinghong, senior leaders of the previous generation. Xi's posting there was considered a stroke of fortune. If he left a good impression during his short tenure, a seat in the central leadership would no longer be out of reach. Though he spent just over half a year in Shanghai, Xi worked hard to make a mark. According to government sources, he reduced internal conflicts, strictly upheld party discipline, and set himself as an example. His key achievements included consolidating party unity in Shanghai by pledging that no political purge would occur under his watch. Despite many officials being implicated in Chen Liangyu's scandal, he helped stabilize the political climate. Strict compliance with central policies. For example, when local officials arranged a special high-class train for him to travel to Hangzhou to hand over his Zhejiang duties, Xi refused, insisting that such privileges were reserved only for national-level leaders, though in reality, this was only an unwritten convention. This pragmatic and moderate approach earned him widespread praise among Shanghai leaders and laid an important stepping stone for his national rise. Return to Beijing. On October 22, 2007, at the first plenary session of the 17th Central Committee, Xi Jinping was appointed to the Politburo Standing Committee, officially returning to Beijing after 27 years. On December 22, 2007, he succeeded Zheng Qinghong as president of the Central Party School. In this role, Xi emphasized political and moral education rooted in Marxism, Leninism, and Mao Zedong thought, reflecting a revival of ideological orthodoxy in China's bureaucracy at the time. The Olympic era, 2008. In 2008, the global financial crisis spread rapidly, but thanks to earlier economic development, China was relatively unaffected and was even praised as being immune. Xi Jinping's role was frequently mentioned through his firm statements defending the ruling ideology of China's leadership. On March 15, 2008, at the first session of the 11th National People's Congress, Xi Jinping was elected Vice President of the People's Republic of China. He was also appointed Chief Commander of the preparations for the 2008 Beijing Olympics, an event that opened at exactly 8:08 p.m. on August 8, 2008. This was China's first time hosting the Olympic Games, symbolizing the nation's emergence as a modern, prosperous power. The decision to entrust Xi with this responsibility reflected the leadership's deep confidence in him. As a sports enthusiast, particularly fond of football, Xi threw himself into the task with great dedication. The Beijing Olympics concluded successfully, earning him international recognition and significantly raising his public profile. First resonance in the West. After the Olympics, Xi Jinping's image began to attract Western attention. Many Western politicians soon realized he was a strong contender to become China's future top leader, someone who would directly shape East-West relations on the global stage. To this day, Xi's true attitude toward the West remains difficult to predict. The Mexico Speech, 2009. On February 11, 2009, during an official visit to Mexico as China's vice president, Xi delivered an unscripted remark when asked about China's miraculous rise during the 2008 financial crisis. He said, "There are some foreigners with nothing better to do, who are full and have nothing better than pointing fingers at China. First, China does not export revolution. Second, China does not export poverty. And third, China does not cause you headaches. What more is there to say?" The statement triggered intense controversy both domestically and internationally. Many argued that making such comments on America's backyard was a direct challenge to the West. Some Chinese citizens, frustrated by President Hu Jintao's soft and moderate approach, applauded Xi's words. However, the majority feared this could spark a new Cold War, or worse. China's censors quickly intervened. Online comments, articles, and even video clips of the speech were deleted within the mainland. Yet the remarks spread widely across international media. Fortunately for Xi, the controversy had no lasting repercussions for either himself or China. Supreme power, first term. On October 18, 2010, at the fifth plenary session of the 17th CPC Central Committee, Xi Jinping was appointed vice chairman of the Central Military Commission, CMC, making him the clear frontrunner to succeed as China's top leader. On October 28, 2010, China's National People's Congress Standing Committee confirmed him as vice chairman of the state CMC. From this point, Xi's position at the political center was virtually unshakable. Later that year, WikiLeaks published a trove of leaked U.S. diplomatic cables that shed light on Xi's image building. Some cables described him as having an appreciation for Western culture. He reportedly told the U.S. ambassador that he enjoyed Hollywood films about World War II and admired America's clear moral stance on good versus evil. He also criticized director Zhang Yimou, saying that some Chinese filmmakers had ignored the values they should promote. However, other cables stressed Xi was not China's Gorbachev, since he showed little interest in democratic reform. He believed the Red Offspring, revolutionary heirs, were the legitimate successors of the Communist Revolution, and that only an elite political system could sustain social stability and lead China to prosperity. On November 15, 2012, at the first plenary session of the 18th CPC Central Committee, Xi Jinping was elected General Secretary of the Communist Party of China and Chairman of the Central Military Commission. For the first time in the PRC's history, the country's top leader simultaneously assumed both of the highest offices. The moment was called the naked departure of Hu Jintao, as Hu voluntarily stepped down from all positions of power. Xi praised this act as a sign of integrity, symbolizing the maturity of China's rejection of lifetime tenure for senior leaders. On March 14, 2013, at the first session of the 12th National People's Congress, she was formally elected President of the People's Republic of China, also serving as chairman of the state CMC, becoming both head of state and the symbolic embodiment of the nation. After the 6th plenary session of the 18th CPC Central Committee, the party's official terminology was amended to state the Party Central Committee, with Comrade Xi Jinping at its core. This officially affirmed Xi's role as the central locus of supreme power, reforms and centralization of power. Upon assuming leadership, Xi Jinping launched a series of reforms across multiple fronts. Politics. He established numerous leading groups and commissions within the party, personally holding key positions and thereby weakening the role of the State Council. He stripped the State Council of its final authority over economic policy, reserving that power for himself. Economy. He introduced the Shanghai Free Trade Zone as a pilot project, later expanded to other provinces and cities. He also carried out far-reaching reforms of the tax and administrative systems, unifying national and local tax authorities, ending the division created by the 1994 tax-sharing reform. Regional development. She proposed major regional economic initiatives such as the integration of Beijing, Tianjin, Hebei, the Yangtze River Economic Belt, and the Greater Bay Area linking Guangdong, Hong Kong, and Macau. Judiciary. He abolished the re-education through labor system and established several specialized courts. Most notably, the Hangzhou Internet Court became the world's first court dedicated to handling cyber-related cases. Social policy. He revised the family planning law, launching the nationwide two-child policy to address the looming demographic crisis of an aging population. Military. She promoted comprehensive defense and military reform, pushing modernization of the People's Liberation Army to align with China's strategic needs. Environment. He implemented policies to cut emissions and strengthen environmental protection, repeatedly stressing the slogan, "Clear waters and green mountains are invaluable assets. Humanity and nature must coexist in harmony." Oversight. His anti-corruption campaign rapidly expanded, bringing down officials at every level of government. Numerous senior cadres, including sitting and former national leaders, were investigated, prosecuted, and convicted. International. She unveiled the Belt and Road Initiative, BRI, and the concept of a community of shared future for mankind, positioning China as a global power. He also spearheaded the creation of new international financial institutions, such as the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, AIIB, to expand China's global influence. The results of these reforms in Xi's first term were controversial. Some yielded positive effects, while others left long-term negative consequences in Chinese society. International observers grew increasingly concerned that China was entering an era of centralized authoritarianism revolving around a single, all-powerful leader. Supreme power, second term. In October 2017, at the 19th National Congress of the Chinese Communist Party, CCP, Xi Jinping was re-elected to the Central Committee and elevated further. The Congress unanimously amended the party constitution to enshrine Xi Jinping thought on socialism with Chinese characteristics for a new era as a guiding ideology. On October 25, 2017, at the first plenary session of the 19th Central Committee, she was re-elected as General Secretary of the CCP and Chairman of the Central Military Commission, beginning his second term. On March 17, 2018, at the first session of the 13th National People's Congress, Xi Jinping was re-elected President of the People's Republic of China. One of his first moves was to push through sweeping constitutional amendments, 21 in total, including 2 landmark changes. Establishment of the National Supervision Commission. Abolition of presidential term limits, removing the 2-term cap for the offices of President and Vice President. This decision shocked international opinion and fueled fears that Xi Jinping was paving the way for lifetime rule. In addition, all members of the Politburo and the Standing Committee were required to report their work annually to the General Secretary. During his second term, Xi frequently revived slogans from the Mao era such as, "The party leads everything." Party, government, military, civilian, academic, east, west, south, north, central. The party leads it all. These slogans were formally written into the party constitution at the 19th Congress. On November 11, 2021, at the 6th plenary session of the 19th Central Committee, Xi introduced his doctrines of the 2 establishes and the 2 safeguards. 2 establishes. Establish Xi Jinping's status as the party's core leader. Establish the guiding role of Xi Jinping thought. 2 safeguards. Safeguard Xi's core position within the party. Safeguard the party's central committee's centralized authority. By October 2022, these doctrines were officially incorporated into the amended party constitution. Economy and finance. In the economic sphere, Xi Jinping proposed establishing the Hainan Free Trade Port, launching innovation zones for science and technology, introducing a registration-based IPO system on the Shanghai Stock Exchange. Additionally, the National Healthcare Security Administration was created to reform the health insurance system. Education and social policy. In education, the double reduction policy was implemented, aimed at reducing the homework burden and after-school tutoring for students in compulsory education. The goal was to create a healthier learning environment that emphasized holistic development. In social welfare, Xi Jinping made poverty alleviation a central mission. By November 2020, all poverty-stricken counties in China officially declared they had been lifted out of poverty. On February 25, 2021, Xi announced that China had achieved a historic victory in eradicating absolute poverty, hailed as an unprecedented feat in human history. Military and anti-corruption. Following tensions in the Taiwan Strait, 2019, and the China-India border clashes, 2020, Xi Jinping prioritized strengthening China's military, increasing combat forces, and modernizing equipment. His large-scale anti-corruption campaign continued into the third term. China's ranking in the Corruption Perceptions Index, CPI, improved from 87th in 2018 to 66th in 2022. COVID-19 response. The outbreak of COVID-19 began in Wuhan in January 2020. The government imposed nationwide lockdowns to contain the virus. Xi Jinping declared that China was willing to sacrifice the economy and the few to protect the many. However, infections continued to rise, and prolonged lockdowns led to growing public frustration. The zero-COVID policy faced heavy criticism and became one of the darkest stains on Xi's leadership, sparking protests that damaged his reputation at home and abroad. Foreign policy and international relations. China-US relations worsened after the Trump administration launched a trade war in March 2018. Following Russia's invasion of Ukraine in 2022, Xi Jinping refused to impose sanctions on Russia but stated clearly his opposition to the use of nuclear weapons, emphasizing, "A nuclear war cannot be won and must never be fought." In April 2022, Xi introduced the Global Security Initiative, GSI, as part of China's foreign policy framework. From September 14th to 16th, 2022, he attended the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, SCO, summit in Samarkand, with state visits to Uzbekistan and Kazakhstan. The 20th Party Congress and third term. At the 20th National Congress of the Chinese Communist Party, October 2022, Xi Jinping for the first time introduced the concept of Chinese-style modernization as the pathway to the great rejuvenation of the Chinese nation. Despite heavy criticism, he secured a third term as General Secretary of the CCP, Chairman of the Central Military Commission, breaking the two-term limit precedent established since China's reform and opening era. Many of Xi's loyal allies were promoted into the Politburo Standing Committee, consolidating his absolute power. On March 10, 2023, Xi Jinping was re-elected President of the People's Republic of China and Chairman of the National Military Commission at the first session of the 14th National People's Congress. Evaluations and public opinion. Xi Jinping has received highly mixed assessments. He has been listed multiple times in Time's 100 Most Influential People and is often described as the most reform-minded leader since Deng Xiaoping. Former U.S. Ambassador to China John Huntsman, 2014, The Times called Xi the most transformative Chinese leader since Deng and predicted he could become China's first true global leader. The Economist, 2017, noted that Xi Jinping had greater global influence than the sitting U.S. president at that time. The 14th Dalai Lama praised Xi as pragmatic and enlightened, commending his tough stance on corruption, though noting this had earned him many enemies within the party elite. However, Xi has also faced intense criticism. Strict censorship policies and expulsion of party members critical of him fueled discontent. His zero-COVID policy was seen as overly rigid and sparked rare, large-scale protests. On September 28, 2022, a Pew Research Center survey revealed that global unfavorable views of China had risen sharply during Xi's tenure. The Sitong Bridge protest in Beijing, right before the 20th Congress in 2022, was the largest anti-government demonstration since Tiananmen Square in 1989. Conclusion. Thus concludes the narrative. Xi Jinping, from victim of the Cultural Revolution to China's supreme leader. If you have any thoughts or questions, feel free to share them in the comments below. Thank you for reading this very long story. See you next time. Musical note.